So Gabby Williams is no stranger to calling out Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, because if you guys don't know, she has had a rough time of it because of international basketball. Because of the time the season is, because of everything, she has just had a pretty rough time when it comes to all that stuff. A lot of it because, obviously, as you can see, she is half French, plays for the French national team, and has had to, like, basically miss seasons of her career because of prioritization rules. She missed winning a ring for the Chicago Sky because they traded her. Because she wasn't going to be able to, she was going to have to miss part of the season to play Eurobasket in 2021. She missed half of this season because of prioritization rules. The only reason she was able to play last year was because she had a concussion, which meant that she could go to training camp and sit in training camp. I'm not joking. Because she was not able to play for her team in France in the playoffs, she was able to just be in attendance for training camp. She was still, I don't think she could do training camp because she had a concussion, but that was enough that she'd be allowed to play. But showing up a week into the season is just against the rules for some reason. But this is what she said about Kathy Engelbert.
Who thinks that they don't have to pay us more in order for us to be here. And I think I didn't express that when I first talked about prioritization. You know, our commissioner talked about us being able to, you know, make 700,000. That's not true at all. There's not one player who makes that. And we were promised, you know, team marketing agreements and league marketing agreements, but they've fallen quite short. So it's still not enough for us international players.
And that's the thing. So obviously they were promised, obviously the salary's $250,000. They were promised all of these team marketing and all these other marketing agreements. And then obviously the one team that did get those type of agreements were the Las Vegas Aces, who are now under investigation for that, which is hilarious. Which is absolutely hilarious. Like, look, it is what it is. It is what it is, like.
And we were promised, you know, team marketing agreements and league marketing agreements, but they've fallen quite short. So it's still not enough for us international players to want to stay here. And that's a choice of the players. If I make a choice to make more money and whatever, and then the, you know, teams are mad that I don't come back, but that's how it is. So yes, it just, the WNBA, you know, if you want us to be here, you have to pay us more. It's business. It's how it works. And that's all that means.
And I know, well, a lot of people are saying, why can't they do both? Because of prioritization rules. If you miss training camp, you are not allowed to play. Like, if you are not available for training camp, you are not allowed to play during the season. Because people were getting really upset that, like, you know, the first 2 weeks of the season, their players were still over in Europe. Well, maybe start the season a little bit later. I don't know. Maybe start the season 2 weeks later. Maybe instead of starting the season, like, in early May, let's start the season at the start of June. I don't know. But these players were making, if you're as good as Gabby Williams was, you're probably making 600, 700K playing for Fenerbahce. She's playing in France. Breanna Stewart was definitely making over $1 million when she was playing for over in Turkey. I know all the players that used to go to Russia were making multiple millions. Like, the teams in Russia used to offer players, I think the max salary in the WNBA at the time was like 150K. They would offer them like a 300K bonus to not play in the WNBA. Like, they would offer them double their WNBA salary to just take the offseason off and be ready to play in the Russian league. Like, Taurasi was making in the millions. Obviously, I think Griner probably was when she was going over there. But yeah, that's the reason why these players go overseas. They just make way more money. Like, and if there wasn't for prioritization rules, they might come back. But the prioritization rules, all they're doing is making sure international players don't come. Like, this isn't like the NBA, where you make more money in the NBA and the seasons are on at the same time. They don't overlap. But, like, they can't expect players to make less money to stay in America. Especially players, like, I understand why some people don't want to leave, but especially players that are from overseas. Like, they can hardly expect MMA Saman to leave Istanbul and maybe miss out on some stuff with her national team to go back to the WNBA to make a quarter of what she's making in Fenerbahce. They can't expect that. Emma Mason is a top 5 basketball player in the world. Just as far as, like, everything she does on the floor. Like, she is, for me, if you replace, She is the only player in the world that I think if you are the Minnesota Lynx, you could replace Fee Collier with, and your team doesn't fall off a cliff. If you replace Fee Collier with Emma Mason, I actually don't. I think the team still is almost equally as good. Like, if you are the Lynx, if she goes to the Lynx, a lot of people are like, oh, get her for the Fever. No, unless you have a new coach, don't get her for the Fever. But, like, she'd be unbelievable for Indiana. She'd be unbelievable for any team. She makes any team better. But it's like, if as long as they're not playing sides ball, if they have a better coach, she could be very, very good with Caitlin Clark. But, like, if you put her in the Minnesota Lynx, she's second best player to that team. And it's just a cheat code. Like, if you put her on the Lynx or you put her on... She probably doesn't start for the Liberty because it's Stewie. But if you put her on the Minnesota Lynx at that, like, 3-4 position instead of, like, Carleton, as good as Bridget Carleton is, that team never loses a game. And she's not in the WNBA. She's one of the top 5 basketball players in the world. Not in the WNBA. And the reason she's not in the WNBA is prioritization rules and the salaries. And fair play to what Gabby Williams is saying. Basically, the commissioner's promised us a bunch of things and they just aren't giving them, so I'm staying. And that's the truth about it. Is she obviously wants to be in the WNBA. It's not like she didn't grow up in America, went to UConn, obviously. I think her mom's French, so she has some French connection, plays for the French national team. But like, she's gone playing in France. She's played in France at times. She's going to play in Turkey this year. And that's the reality of it. Players are going to go where to make more money. It's always going to be the case. Doesn't matter if, for example, in basketball, the Saudi team started paying... I was about to say, it's like the max contracts in the NBA are probably bigger when Saudi teams are paying football players. Everyone's like, oh, $1 million a week is like the craziest thing ever in Saudi Arabia that these players are making. But it's like all max contract players in the NBA make that. But let's just say hypothetically, the Saudi basketball league was paying guys $100 million a year. The best NBA players were playing in Saudi Arabia. And all the overseas leagues are paying way more. Thankfully, players like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, these players won't have to go away. Thankfully for Unrivaled, players won't have to go away. But Gabby Williams is still making way more money for Fenerbahce than she'd be making Unrivaled. Like, she could get the Unrivaled contract and a max salary from the WNBA, and she would be still making more money if she just played overseas in Turkey this year. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys agree with Gabby Williams? Do you guys agree with the commissioner that players should just play in the WNBA because it's the highest level, even if they're making less money? For me, it's a job, so no. I think players should play where they're making the most. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.